Hi, so I'm just going to go through and show you how to paint and assemble these floral eggs. So I went ahead and did these other layers in another video. So if you want to see how I did the crackle paint, just scroll back and look for the crackle paint and egg with the eggs, the bunnies, and the shamrocks tutorial, so you can see how I went about painting the crackle paint. So, and it's really fun and easy to do. So I went ahead and did that in another video. I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to paint and assemble these. So I'm going to just go ahead and take these apart. They all assemble pretty much the same way. So this is just going to go on top of here. And I am going to paint that bottom piece that goes into the stand. And then I'm just going to go ahead and just layer that right on top. So there's that. Just make sure that you line it up perfectly. And none of this is glued down yet, so on this top here. So that's what it's going to look like when it's finished. Same thing with this one. And I did it in an assembly line process. I painted all of the greens, and then I painted all of the flowers, and I just did all one color at the same time and just did it like an assembly line. It didn't take long at all. And I did all of the bunnies at once, all of the shamrocks, and then all of the eggs. I left this one so I could do this one for you, so you can see how this goes about getting painted and assembled. So I'm just going to zoom in so you can see those finished ones. So that's how it's going to look when it's finished. And I'm just going to go through and show you how these go together. So I'm going to just go ahead and take these apart. So this one goes right on top of here. And I'm going to take this off. And then we have this piece that goes here. When I did these, I kept all the pieces together so that I knew which one went with which egg. So that way you don't get them mixed up. That's really important because you don't want to mix those up and then try to remember which one goes where, because they are all different sizes. So I'm going to take these off, and then you have this big piece here. I'm going to go ahead and take this part away because you don't really need to paint this except for that bottom piece if you want. So I'm going to take that away, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my green layer. So I'm going to just grab some, it's like a nice sage green, and I'm going to paint the greens. So I'm just going to go ahead and just tap that right on. This is just some green chalk paint, sage green. And I'm just tapping that right on there. And I like chalk paint because it does cover really nicely. And I'll zoom in so you can see that a little better. And we have these nice chunky leaves over here. And I make sure I get all of these. And I'm going to save these little berries and do these a different color. And I tried to space them apart so that way you can paint them and you don't have them real close together. So that way, if you're not a good painter, like if you're like me and you're a little sloppy and you don't want them to touch, I tried to design them in such a way that they're far enough away from each other that you don't touch them. All right, so I got this big chunky leaf over here. I'm gonna get that one. And I got my kitty meowing. I'm in the house today because it is single digits. This morning when I got up, it was, I believe, -1 degree, very cold. So I'm not in the garage today. I came in the house, brought everything in because it is freezing outside. So, all right. And when you think you have everything covered that needs to be covered, you're all set. I like to always just double check, make sure everything is covered. So you're going to make sure you line these pieces up here. These line up, and you see that little curly Q, it lines up there. So you're going to line those pieces up. And when you make sure everything is covered, that none of the MDF is, my cat is getting into a bag. When you get everything covered up that you need to cover up, right, all the MDF. Sorry, my cat is driving me crazy. Then it's good. All right, so looks good. It looks like I got everything covered. I'm just gonna take this part away, and then I'm done with my green. Sorry, my cat is Very verbal kitty. And then I'm gonna go on and grab a teal color. And I'm just gonna move this out of the way for now. And I'm going to paint this layer here. This is the piece that's going behind the rose. I think it'd be nice. I like the contrasting with the blue. I think it looks so pretty with the blue and then doing like a mauve on the top layer. There we go. For the rest of these, I just did them as an assembly line, but just for the video, I'm doing just the one. So I normally wouldn't do just one at a time. I did them all at once. And you can do them really fast that way. So I don't normally do these one at a time. So there we are. There's that. And I do like to just kind of, my laser for some reason, I don't know, it takes too much of the material away. And sometimes there's a gap and I'm not sure what's going on with my laser, but it takes some of the material away. It just takes too much away and then you can see the gap. And so sometimes I like to just put a little paint on here where that layer is going to go on top. You don't have to do this. This is because my laser it just cuts too much of the material away. And maybe it's because of my setting. Got to figure that part out. So I don't want the MDF to show through if there's any gaps. So I'm just going to cover that part up where that flower is going to be, just because I don't want anything to show. I've noticed that when I go to put some of my witches together, you can see the back layer. So I'm going to put a little bit of paint there. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and put my brush away. Get my brush cleaner in the sink here. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab some blue for this one. I'm very stuffed up from being outside last night. It was very cold when I was cutting these. So this is like a periwinkle blue. This is called Duck Egg Blue from Dixie Belle. That's the name of this paint, in case you're wondering. And the other one was called Antebellum Blue. That was also from Dixie Belle for that color, in case you're wondering what shades I'm using. There we go. Look at these little curly cues. All right. And I'm not going to do anything special to the paint on these, just because I already have a lot going on. I'm not going to do any paint effects because the Crackle paint is already a paint effect. So I'm just going to paint these just regular. I'm not going to do any like distressing or anything. I feel like the egg is already distressed, so I don't want to add too much distressing. I think you can go overboard with distressing sometimes. So I'm just going to stick with just painting these just regular. But if you wanted to add like a little bit of shading, that's up to you. I'm just choosing not to do that. I just don't want to have it too busy because the egg is already busy. There we go. I just love how the egg looks with the Crackle paint because it looks like the egg is cracked. I just think that looks really cool. All right, I'm gonna go through and just add like, I feel like, because I'm gonna be putting a top coat and it's acrylic paint that I'm using on this. I'm just adding a base coat with the chalk paint because I feel like acrylic paints with these ones that I got, they're from Temu, they just bleed right into the MDF. So I'm just putting a layer. I'm not going to keep it that color. I have a lighter blue I'm going to put on the top of that. And then for this one, I'm going to do a peach. And this is also, this is from Temu. These are just some cheap acrylic paints. They don't have, they don't coat very well. So you do have to put a couple coats on. You can see it's very, very thin. And that's the same way with the other one I'm going to be doing. So that's why you're going to have to need a couple coats if you use acrylic. I like chalk paint for the reason that you can kind of get away with one, maybe two coats, but with these acrylics, and maybe because they're a little cheaper, and they're from Temu. You definitely need more than one coat on these ones. So I'm going to come back and add a little bit more paint. So I'm going to do a nice little peach color on this. I just want some nice spring colors because, you know, I'm just kind of sick of winter. I know it's only January, but I am definitely thinking spring, especially when it's been in the single digits here and it's been freezing. I'm definitely thinking spring. So I'm going to let that dry for a little bit. I'm going to go to this flower here, and I'm going to grab this mauve color. It's from Fusion. This is more of like a furniture paint. I just get these little sample pots for my craft paints. I'm going to be very careful not to get it in those little spaces. I don't want to get it all inside there. So I'm going to be very careful with how I paint this. I don't get it all inside there. Okay. You can always grab more paint when you run out. I like this paint too. This coat's in one coat. These little furniture paints. So if you ever go to like your craft stores, like your co-ops, and they have like those little sample paint pots for like furniture paints, these are really great. And they're not expensive. They're just little sample jars, and they last a really long time if you're just doing these little pieces. So I definitely recommend them. Alrighty, I think I've used this color a lot. I'm almost out of this color. It's a nice pretty mauve. And this color is Enchanted. I really like that one. So if you happen to see that brand, it's called Fusion. And a lot of people use it for distressing their furniture with like chalk paint. And I just think it's really pretty. All right, and that's all there is to that one. All right, now I'm gonna come back. Now that my green is dry, I'm gonna bring that back over so I can do these pieces here. Okay, and I'm going to paint this in a nice pretty pink. And I'm gonna grab some, this is just, this is chalk paint. This is from Folk Art. It's called Blushed Pink. I'm just gonna go ahead and dab that on. And I noticed this color definitely needs more than one coat. Some colors I feel like you just need more than one coat. And I'm going to actually blend this with some pink acrylic too, just to like make it pop a little bit more. But this is such a fun spring color. I love this pink. Make sure I get all the little stems. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of this lighter pink and just kind of, this is called Ballet Pink actually. That's also from Folk Art. I'm gonna grab that one instead. I'm just gonna go through here, grab some of that Ballet Pink, and I'm just adding some like little highlights. I was gonna use the Temu one, but I'm gonna stick with this. There we are. I'm gonna grab some more of the other pink and just kind of create some highlights. And it just goes on really nice. And that's all you really need for that one. I'm careful not to get it on the green. And they're far enough away that you won't hit the green with this. The smaller ones, with the smaller eggs, they are a little closer together, but I think they're still doable. I didn't get any on them when I was painting them, and I'm a pretty messy painter. Okay, so that's all there is for that one. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some yellow for this over here. This is another one from Temu. It's not the best. I didn't have any yellow chalk paint, so I'm using the acrylic. So I'm just gonna dab that right on there. There we are. And this definitely needs a second coat. You can see it's fading. There we go. And definitely need more. Make sure I get it on there. And there we are. I just tapped off in case I had any green on my brush, but I didn't. Just want to make sure. And sometimes you get some of the char in your brush. So I always like to tap off, make sure I don't have any char in there, because sometimes that gets pulled in from those sides. And you don't have to worry about how close. You can go right into that green. It doesn't even matter, because you're going to be covering this part with the flower. So you don't have to be perfect. You just have to make sure you don't get it here or over here. Those are the spots you have to be careful of. But right here where it's coming out, that's where you're going to be covering it with the flower. So no worries. So you can see that does not matter. Okay. Now I do have to go back and add another coat to that peach. So I'm going to come back and add more peach on this. There we go. And then I think I'm ready to assemble. There we are. Got a goober. I'll wipe that off. Sometimes this, I got a whole box of this paint. I want to say it was like $8 or $5, and I got a lot of paint. So, I mean, you can't go wrong for the amount of paint you get. You just have to coat it a few times. Otherwise, the colors are really great. Got a whole box of pastel paints from Temu. I say there was 24 in that box. I have it in my other video. I show the box. It's outside right now, and I don't want to go back out to my garage because it's freezing. Last I checked, it was like 30 degrees out there. Even with it being insulated, it's very cold. All right. Okay. Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna let that dry for a second. I'm gonna bring my egg back. This is the back layer. What I'm going to do, I'm gonna set this over here, let that dry too, and set this over here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just paint this bottom piece over here, and I do have a brush, and I'm gonna grab some of that gray that I use on the back layer here, and I'm gonna just go ahead and paint that little bottom piece. There we are, because I don't want that, I don't like the MDF layer showing. I'm gonna just go ahead and just paint that. And it doesn't matter how perfect it is, because you're gonna be layering that right over the top. So good enough. All right. And while I have these out, I'll do the same thing. Just make sure I get that on there. Grab some more paint. And just try not to add, if your slot is already really tight, I would be careful how much paint you put on. I use MDF on these. I recommend MDF because of how fragile these florals are. So, I mean, you can add enough paint to this, because MDF definitely tends to run a little bit on the thinner side. So, you can add enough paint on here. It just provides more stability in the stand. The stands are 0.127, so it gives a little bit of give for paint if you're using materials that are exactly 125, so that way you can add your paint. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there, and I'm gonna bring this back now. I'm gonna put this top layer on. I'm gonna move these over here out of the way so I can bring this up. And I'm gonna put this all together now. So here is the layer that has our pretty Crackle paint, making sure that everything is lined up perfectly. I always like to take my fingers and just kind of line it up so it all touches. Take your fingers, make sure that all the florals are all lined up perfectly. Okay. And of course, it's just gonna move on me. So once I get it lined where I want it, there it is. And then I'm gonna come over here and grab my green floral layer, and I'm gonna line that up. There it is. And get that lined up perfectly. And I always take my fingers and just line it directly up and just squeeze, make sure it's all perfect. Like that. All right, when you're happy with it, you can glue it down. I like to glue everything on here first and then glue it down. I'm just showing you how everything goes. So when I go to glue this, I am going to glue everything on here first and then glue it on. All right, so then I'm going to bring this piece back. Oh, you know, I gotta paint this one, I just realized. I have to grab another brush. Forgot to paint my purple layer. Almost forgot that one. So I'm gonna grab some of this pretty lilac purple, and I'm gonna go through And I'm gonna paint this. I almost forgot about this layer. Out of sight, out of mind. So we got our little curlicues here. I don't think you really have to paint those too much because they're gonna be covered up with that blue layer. And I do have to do the second layer on that top piece. I'm gonna do the lighter blue over it because I don't want any two colors to be the same. And you don't have to do it that way. I just prefer not to have any two colors of the same. There we go. Making sure I get all of those leaves that are going to be showing. There we are. And you can paint that curly if you want, just in case anything shows. All right. Here we are. Because this layer is going to show. All right, so there's that. So I'm gonna let that dry for a second, and I'm gonna come back and I'm going to just wipe my blue brush off. I'm gonna grab some of this, it's called Patina, that's the name of the shade, Patina. And I'm just gonna go over here and I'm gonna add some of that lighter blue, and then it pops more because it already had a base coat. There we are. Because I feel like when you put that right on the MDF, it just gets lost. And you have to keep adding more coats, but the chalk paint helps. If you put chalk paint down as your base coat, it helps a little bit. There we are. Looks good. All right. Now I can go ahead and put this on like that. So you're gonna line this up. See how that little curlicue there and that little curlicue there, they line right up. There we are. You're gonna line this piece here and you're gonna put that right there. And it lines right up and you can see those little cutouts. You can see that's where that blue flower is gonna go. And you wanna make sure that these are all lined up and it fits together like a puzzle, lines up. This piece here goes right in there and it just fits together like a puzzle. And if I can, my hands are shaking a little bit and these nails don't help. Oh my goodness, there we are. There we go, and do it all together and just squeeze it all together. There it is. So there's that, and let's push that up there and it has to all match. There we go. And then we have this piece that goes on top of here. There it is. And then you take this piece and there it is. And you don't have to make that color. You can do a totally different color. There we are. And that's all there is. And you put it on the stand. And I'll zoom in so you can see that. And that's our pretty floral egg. So that's all there is to making these. So there's that one, and then we have, that's our biggest one. And then we have the smallest one here. I'm gonna just move this down and they all line right up. And what's nice is that there are 3 layers. So those delicate pieces over to the side, they are going to line right up. So they shouldn't break off because there are 3 layers. So, I mean, that's a lot of layers. So they are a little delicate, but they do layer up 3 times. So if you're worried about any of those pieces breaking off, there's 3 layers of them. So, and then here's our medium sized one. And this one is, I think it's about 7, a little under 7 inches. And then we have this one here. It's like under 5 inches. It's like, they're like, I would say 5, 6, 7 inches. So I can't remember exactly. I made so many files lately, I can't recall all of the sizes exactly, but roughly about 5, 6, 7 inches. This one's a little bit under 5 inches. Okay, so that is all there is to making these. And if you wanted to check back on the other video for the Crackle paint, that's just scroll back, I think 1 or 2 videos, and there's the Crackle paint tutorial. All right, thanks a lot for joining. Bye.